Hello everybody and welcome to week number 13 of the college football season here in 2017 and my predictions. It is rivalry week, a good collection of games coming up. Last week we will go over real quick, a little late this weekend, so I apologize. I was on vacation, just got back last night on Thursday. Anyway, just real quick through week number 12, I picked 5 games. I had Virginia on the road against number 3 Miami. Miami was an 18-point favorite, and I said it was the lock of the week that Virginia would cover the spread, which they do. Miami wins, which I said they would, but Virginia covers the spread. They lose by 16, so we got the pick and the spread right on that one. Then we had number 24 Michigan on the road against number 5 Wisconsin. I said Michigan would win and pull off the upset, but they do not, so we got that pick wrong and the spread wrong. Then we had Kentucky on the road against number 7 Georgia. I picked Georgia to win, but I did pick Kentucky to cover the spread. I thought Georgia might come out just a little flatter after suffering their first loss of the season, but they do not. They pick up a pretty convincing win, so they covered the spread. We got the pick right on that, but not the spread. Then we had Navy on the road against number 8 Notre Dame. Notre Dame was an 18-point favorite. I said Notre Dame should win, but I said it'd be pretty close, and I picked Navy to cover that spread. Just because the triple option, hard to defend, they eat up a lot of clock. It's really hard to cover a 3-score spread, as I mentioned last week, against a team like Navy. So that's why I took them to cover that. And they do. They actually only end up losing by 7 points. So pick and spread right on that pick. Then the upset of the week last week, I had Maryland going into Michigan State. Michigan State was number 17 and a 15.5-point favorite. But as I said last week, I didn't really think Maryland would win. I just had to pick something for my upset of the week, and I thought they had a decent chance, which they do. They did cover that spread. They only end up losing 17-7, so we got the spread right on that, but not the pick. So we were 3-2 last week straight up. That puts our season total at 65-30. We were also 3-2 against the spread, which moves our season total against the spread up to 45-51. Got the upset wrong, which moves us to 3-8 on the upsets, and we got the lock of the week right, which puts us at 8-4 on the season for the locks. So that brings us here to week number 13 of the season, rivalry week. I have 10 games this week. 3 of them top 25, actually 4 of them top 25 matchups. And we're going to start in the American Athletic Conference. It is South Florida on the road against Central Florida. UCF is 10-0. South Florida is 9-1. Both teams have been pretty good. South Florida started the season ranked. They had that 1 4-point loss to Houston, which knocked them out of the top 25, and they haven't been ranked since. But overall, they've still been a pretty good team. UCF, obviously, 10-0. They have beaten pretty much everybody they've played pretty soundly, other than SMU, where they won by 7. So this is going to be a trend this week. Big favorite, 2-score favorite, UCF. I'm not going to pick them to cover the spread because it is a rivalry game. I don't care if they're at home. I don't care if they're 10-0. That's just what happens in rivalry games. You can throw the spreads, you can throw the records out the window. As a matter of fact, not only do I not like UCF covering that 10-point spread, I'm going to pick USF, South Florida, to win outright as a 10-point underdog on the road. Then that brings us to number 7, Georgia, on the road against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech having a rough season. They are 6-5. They are bowl eligible. They are at home for this game against the 10-1 Georgia Bulldogs, who of course lost their only game 2 weeks ago and otherwise have looked very good. Triple option, Georgia Tech, as I mentioned with Navy, tough to defend. They're going to eat a lot of clock. They're going to keep this game close for that reason and because they're at home in a big rivalry game. Give me Georgia to win, but give me Georgia Tech to cover that 11-point spread, which brings us to the game. Number 9, Ohio State, a 12-point favorite on the road against Michigan. Michigan coming off of a loss to Wisconsin. They lose 24-10. We're actually looking pretty good before they lost their quarterback. Ohio State coming off of a game against Illinois, which might as well be a bye week. Anyway, Michigan's defense, very good. Ohio State's offense, very good. Michigan's offense, not very good. Ohio State's defense, very good. Well, kind of. I don't trust their secondary. And I was looking at the stats. I don't really trust their front seven either. When you have your two safeties leading the team in tackles, that's, something's wrong there. People are getting to the second level. And the one aspect of Michigan's offense that is actually good is their rushing game. They're in the top 40 rushing, which isn't great, but when you look at where they are passing and everything else, pretty good. So I think Michigan may actually have some good success on the ground, and who knows, maybe it opens up some passing for John O'Corn or Brandon Peters, whoever the quarterback's going to be. They're in trouble. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat it, but I think that their defense can rise to the occasion at home. JT Barrett is prone to crapping his pants, and maybe, just maybe, he craps his pants. Maybe the Michigan defense can hold him in, and the Ohio State special teams, which is not good at all, perhaps allows Michigan some short fields that they can capitalize on, whether it's field goals or a couple of touchdowns on offense. Rivalry game at home. Michigan really has nothing to play for other than finally beating Ohio State again. Ohio State still has a Big Ten championship to look at and perhaps playoffs. I think Michigan might catch them. I'm obviously a Michigan fan, so I don't care what the spread is. I'm never going to pick Ohio State to win this game. Give me Michigan as a 12-point underdog at home to win, and that is my upset of the week because that is the largest spread that I am picking against. I did pick against UCF as 10-point favorites, but Michigan's 12-point underdog, so that's my upset of the week, Michigan over Ohio State. That brings us to Florida State, 5-point favorite on the road against Florida. This is actually going to be my lock of the week, and I'm going with Florida State to win this game on the road and cover that 5-point spread easily because Florida is bad and Florida has quit. Florida State's not very good overall, but I think they are a better team, and given the fact that Florida has quit on the season, I think Florida State will go in there and beat them by at least 2 scores, rivalry game on the road or not. Then we have Battle of the Old Oaken Bucket. That's right, it's Indiana at Purdue. Purdue is a 2.5-point favorite at home. Take Purdue to win, and I'm going to take Purdue to cover that 2.5-point spread because it's 2.5 points. Then we have number 1 Alabama, a 4.5-point road favorite on the road against number 6 Auburn. Game of the week, no doubt. The Iron Bowl, Auburn 9-2 on the season. They have won 4 straight, including that big win at home against Georgia, who's number 1 in the country at the time. They had a close loss on the road against number 3 Clemson, and then on the road against LSU, they lost by 4. So Auburn's been playing good football all year, especially the last few weeks. Alabama is obviously Alabama undefeated, but they did have that close encounter on the road against Mississippi State 2 weeks ago. On the road, Iron Bowl. I think Auburn at home beats Alabama as a 4.5-point underdog. That's right, I got Auburn over Alabama. Then we go to the Pac-12, Arizona on the road. They are a 2.5-point favorite against Arizona State. Nothing too special about this game. I just kind of threw it in there. It's a rivalry, just like Indiana, Purdue, etc. I'm going to go with Arizona State at home to win outright as a 2.5-point underdog over Arizona. Then we have number 3 Clemson, 10-1, on the road against number 24 South Carolina, who is 7-3. Clemson had that one misstep on the road against Syracuse, otherwise have done pretty much what has been expected of them. They have been a good team. South Carolina, kind of surprising. They are ranked. They had a 10-point loss at home against Kentucky. They lost on the road to Texas A&M, and then they lost by 2 scores on the road against Georgia. Came back with an 8-point win against Florida, which isn't very special, at home, and then only a 21-point win at home against Wofford. So I'm not liking South Carolina in this game. I don't care if they're at home. I don't care if it's a rivalry game. I think Clemson is going to go in there and win this game, but 13.5-point favorites is kind of high. So I'm going to go with South Carolina just because it is a rivalry game and they are at home to maybe just keep that to about 10 points. I don't think this game will really be close. I think Clemson will keep their distance, and I think they do win by 10 points. But I'm going to give South Carolina the benefit of the doubt in a rivalry game at home to cover that 13.5 point spread. Then we have number 8, Notre Dame, 2.5 point favorite on the road against number 21, Stanford. Stanford is 8-3 on the season. They have won 2 in a row. They had a 3-point loss at Washington State before that. Then their other 2 losses came earlier in the year. But since that point, they looked pretty good. They beat Washington by 8 points at home. Only beat Cal by 3 points last week. And then you got Notre Dame, of course, who are 9-2 on the season. They had that early loss at home against Georgia, and then they got completely blown out 2 weeks ago against Miami on the road. Now, on the road against Stanford, I like Stanford in this game to win outright as a 2.5 point underdog. So give me Stanford over Notre Dame, which brings us to the Apple Cup. Washington State, number 13, on the road against number 17, Washington. Washington is a 10.5 point favorite. Washington is 9-2 on the season. They had that loss against Stanford 2 weeks ago. Pulled one out at home against Utah by 3 points. Utah hasn't been a very good team. Washington State, as usual, up and down all year, but they are also 9-2 coming into this game. They got a lot to play for, because if they win this game, I believe Washington State would win the Pac-12 North. They beat Stanford head-to-head, and they have the same conference record, I believe. Anyway, big game for Washington State, but on the road against Washington, I like Washington to pull it out, but I do like Washington State to keep it close. So give me Washington State to cover that 10.5 point spread as an underdog, but give me Washington to win. So that will do it for my picks here in Rivalry Week 2017. I will see you all next week, where I will pick the conference championship games and, of course, break down these 10 games that we just picked. So thank you, everybody, for watching. As always, please be sure to comment down below with your thoughts on my predictions and any of your predictions for this weekend in college football, whether it was any of these games I just did or any other game on the schedule. And I will see you all next week. Be sure to subscribe for that video, and goodbye.